Okay, in this video we're going to go through and highlight how you would use data recovery software to help you recover data on your own if you've accidentally formatted your drive or deleted some data or anything like that, to where there's not necessarily a mechanical problem with the hard drive, but the data's gone. Then you might be able to use something off the shelf to be able to actually go through and recover the data, as opposed to sending it into a company like ours. Now, this does not apply to issues with a hard drive where there's a mechanical problem with it, the drive's clicking or making unusual noises or anything like that. Those are definitely issues where you would not want to power the drive any more than you have to, and you're probably going to be very limited as to what you can do to recover the data on your own. But for a hard drive that is mechanically sound and has just had an issue to where it was accidentally formatted, or partition became corrupted or something along that line to where the data's not showing up anymore, then this might be a solution for you that would help get you through that. So first thing we're going to do is take a look at the partition that we're talking about. What I did was I've taken just a drive that we had here that we'd created an image to from one of our, it's actually one of our workers' laptops, and so we had pulled their data off of a drive that they had, and we used it for an example on a video we did previously. So we've taken that partition and we've essentially just formatted it, so we've cleared out the partition completely. This was the partition name originally, the OS, and that's typically on a laptop where you will find the user profiles and user data and things like that. So it was a 320 gig partition. Right now you can see that it has the entire free space available to it. So there's nothing written to this drive at all right now. But the software that we generally will recommend, because we get calls all the time where people want to ask us, what do we recommend for data recovery software? It's really hard for us to recommend a brand or a type of software because we don't really use it that often. Very, very seldom do we use anything that's available to the most end users. We'll generally use PC3000 or some of the software that we've developed on our own. But one program, though, that we're pretty happy with, some of the results that we've seen that we've used in some RAID rebuilding issues and just some general type of recovery work, is just an additional tool, because if there's one thing we've learned in the 13 plus years that we've been doing this, and that is there is no one single solution that works for every type of recovery. So the more tools you have at your disposal, the better you're going to have the ability to be able to recover data from a wide variety of types of problems. But RStudio is a pretty good piece of software, and it's not very expensive. You can download the demo. We aren't affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. This is not something where we're getting a kickback for doing this. We're not really trying to promote them. We're trying to help you get a piece of software that is decent, that might be able to help you in a situation to where you don't get into a point where you have to send it out to somebody. You might be able to do it on your own. So you would just go to their website at r-tt.com. They have a wide variety of different software that's available, but the general RStudio program is pretty robust. It'll do quite a bit. It'll even interface to our DeepSpar imager, and I'll show you that here in a minute, how that's kind of tied in. So you can download the demo here, and then if you like it, you can purchase it. I think it's around $79. What is the price on here? Does it have it on this page? Yeah, $79, $80. So you'll be somewhat limited what you can do, but it'll be plenty for what you might need to do for just normal type recovery work for software logical type data recovery issues. So our partition has been cleared out. Again, nothing on here. And we'll go ahead and open up the software. Now, this is the hard drive here that we have connected. It's a 500 gig Hitachi that we just cloned that 320 gig hard drive to. And what I was saying with it being able to interface to our DeepSpar, our disk imager, that's what this is. It actually knows that a DDI image has been created. And there's ways that you can network between the two and everything else, and we may do a video of that as well in the future. Right now we'll just reduce that down. This is our partition that had been formatted. If we open it up right now, there's nothing there. There's just one little remnant of the old recycle bin. So if you go through here and actually click on the root directory, it shows that there's 93 megabytes of data written to that drive right now. Now, here's where you run into issues. Is sometimes you'll have a problem where, let's say a drive gets formatted or data is accidentally deleted from the hard drive. Then you run into a problem where a customer might rewrite data back to that hard drive. Now that's where it makes this recovery effort exponentially more difficult, and depending on how much data is written to the hard drive, it actually may make the recovery impossible. But what we're going to do right now is just scan this partition. And I just right-clicked on there, hit scan, scan the whole partition. We probably won't let it go that far, but we'll scan it here a little ways and I'll show you what the results look like. So right now, each of these blocks, it's with these varying colors in here. This is the legend down here for these different colors that are showing up in the individual blocks. So you can see here, these are the NTFS directories that it's finding. These are the files themselves that it's scanning and finding, and some of this it's reading through parts of the bitmap as well, to where it's starting to detect that, hey, these are how many files are on this drive, etc. You can see down here the progress that it's making. We're about 1.5 gigs into the drive itself, and this is the sector number that it's on. So it moves along fairly fast, depending on the health of the drive. And again, that's, I can't stress enough, you do not want to run any type of utility at all on a hard drive that is failing. Very sluggish response times, things like that, to where it shows that there's obvious degradation to the hard drive. If it's data you don't really care about having back, obviously try whatever you can to get whatever you can off of it. But if you have a hard drive that is containing vital data that you cannot afford to lose or is irreplaceable, and it's working in a degraded state, intermittently clicking, anything like that, you definitely do not want to do anything at all to that drive to force it to operate. So, but with most hard drives though, where the file system just had some corruption, a little glitch, or it was accidentally formatted, which, believe me, that happens. Even though it's not hard to format a drive, you really have to make an effort to do it, but sometimes it just happens on accident. Sometimes the customer will initialize the wrong drive on accident as well, which wipes out the partitions. So it does happens to the best of people. So it's just one of those things where, as long as nothing else is written to the drive, there's still a good chance that the data is going to be recoverable. Even though the operating system sees the drive as being empty, after a format has been done, the data is still on these sectors. The sectors themselves still contain the individual files. That's why you can see here, we're way out, almost 5.5 gigs into the hard drive, and it's still picking up data. But to look at the drive, as far as the OS is concerned, as far as operating sees it sees the drive as being empty. Now, you don't want to install the software on the hard drive you're recovering from. You don't want to install anything to the drive that you're recovering from. You don't want to write any data to the drive you're recovering from. If you've deleted a whole directory that you needed, but you've sat there and allowed the drive to operate for days or weeks or sometimes months, we'll have people call us back and say, oh, I forgot I had this directory on there I deleted. Well, by then, if you've written a bunch more data to the drive, the operating system is going to find the empty sectors, or the sectors that it sees as being empty, and it's going to start rewriting data to those. And once data is rewritten to the sector, there's no way to bring that back. That's why people wipe hard drives, and the wiping process is generally rewriting data, little bits of data, multiple times to a single sector to clear out the data that was there originally. And we'll go ahead and stop this process now, and we will see what the results look like. You can see here after we've stopped, this is the partition it discovered. And what I'm going to do is just double click on that and see what we get treed up. And you can see down here the progress indicator of how many files it's found. This is the total amount of data that it's found so far as it's treeing up the directory structure, so you can see it's a good amount of data that it's got so far. Sometimes this will take a long time, sometimes it doesn't take very long at all. It depends on how much data was on the hard drive itself initially. I've gone through and done 7 or 8 of these just on various drives we have here, just to kind of get a feel for the software itself. Like I said, I don't really use it that much. Most of what we have here is more than enough for what we need for most recoveries, but in order to show you how it works, I wanted to make sure I had a pretty decent understanding of it anyway. And I do like the interface between the DeepSpar Imager and the RStudio software. It kind of works similarly to the way that we work PC3000. It lets you be able to view the bitmap and everything else, view the file folders, and then be able to, once you've viewed them, you can actually go through and select which folders you want to image, and then use your DeepSpar Imager to only image those sectors. So it kind of gives you more of a visual interface with the DeepSpar Imager, as opposed to just being more manually based, where you type in different files that in folders and things like that that you want to try to find and try to recover. So I may just pause this for a minute and let this finish loading, or actually I may just stop it and see where we are. Because it's still slowly but surely loading these. Let me go ahead and pause this, and once this is finished up, I will resume the video. Okay, so I finished treeing up the directory, and this is the display. So again, everything is here that was there before that drive was actually formatted. And let's just do, for example, we'll go down here to this user profile, because I know that this is the one that had the bulk of the data on it. Let's just say you absolutely had to have one of these folders. Most of the time when people are dealing with home cameras and things like that, or home computers, it's a lot of times they're missing their pictures and things along that line. So let's just say we really needed these animal park folders, and we'll go through and recover the data to. We'll just put them on here just as a test. So we'll select this folder, and any hidden attributes, we'll remove them. If any of the naming is messed up, sometimes it'll have just invalid symbols inside the names themselves if for some reason the file system's damaged. And if there's a file that already exists, we'll just rename it instead of overwriting it in case there's a different variation to it. So right now, everything is set. We've got the directory we want to copy the data over to. We want to make sure, obviously, that it's not the source drive that we're copying the data back to. So we'll hit OK. And you can see the progress that it's making now. And you can see how much data is remaining to be recovered, how many files that it's still recovering. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that. So here's our test folder on our backup disk. And these are the folder structure it retains. And there's our pictures. So you can see, even though the hard drive was formatted, even though that the data was lost, it's a relatively easy way to actually go back through and recover the data after it had been deleted due to the formatting that occurred. And yep, that's it. So that part of it's completed. The data is here. We've copied it over to a fresh drive, and you can see here the drive is still, there's nothing there. We haven't done anything to change the original source drive. One thing I would recommend, if at all possible, it would be to image your original drive. But I think sometimes that's one of those things where if you're doing it at home, it may add more risk than it does reward, because of the fact that you don't want to accidentally get your imaging map backwards. You don't want to be cloning the drive that you are supposed to be copying the data to. In other words, you don't want to be sitting there overwriting your source drive. So you can work from the source in RStudio and let it scan, see what it comes up with. And like I said, with this particular recovery here, just as an example, you can see that the results came out very well. And that's how most of them should, as long as data has not been overwritten on the drive. We may do another video as well that shows what happens whenever you do accidentally overwrite some of the data, because of the fact that even if you went through and you wrote a gig or two of data back to this drive, you're still going to have a lot of the data that's still recoverable. You just may lose some of the file system folder structure and stuff like that. So anyway, we hope you got something out of this, and we appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, or if you have a problem with your hard drive that's a little more involved, if you have an issue with a physical problem with your hard drive where the drive is clicking or making unusual noises, feel free to check out some of our other videos. You can also visit our website at acsdata.com. You can give us a call at 1-800-717-8974, and we will be happy to help you however we can. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.